Okay, so hello second year students, here we go again. We're going to prepare for the next weekend, and your journey will be different than that of the first weekend in that you keep trying to be facilitators. You're actually stepping in, and it went really well last time, so more opportunities coming along. So I want to talk a little bit first about the open constellations, because we monitored it last time. Remember, you took notes and reported back to the group what you saw, and that went great, but I'd like it to be more precise. So we're going to review the form, give you another form, and they will have very simple questions, and I'm going to read them to you so you know what they are. So first question is, what is the issue? What is the dynamic? What healing movements show themselves? What healing movements are introduced? Healing sentences or rituals? And what seed is planted? So that forces you to kind of watch the constellation, not take so many notes, but really kind of get the movements and write just those sentences. It's not so easy because it's never one straight movement, but try being a lot more precise and writing a lot less, so that when we talk about it, we can kind of say that was the issue, this is where it moved, then that showed itself, this movement was introduced, healing sentences were offered, seeds were planted. We're trying to give you more of an eye for diagnostics rather than just following every little change. The other thing I'd like you to watch while I'm working is, when do I use these three principles? The reality, the order, or the energy. When am I working with what? So just to hold that perspective and watch. And you'll see probably that with each time you watch a constellation, your view changes. You get more able to kind of go to a meta view. You're not so much in the constellation, though you're still with the process, but you're also observing from a higher level, here's this dynamic, and that might be going on. So that you learn to make your own hypotheses when you work with people and get into that meta level. So I also wanted you to review the article that I gave out last time on consciousness. And probably to make it easy, I'll just attach that article again for each one of you so you can read it again. Because what you're doing when you become a facilitator, you're actually becoming a representative for the entire system. You're doing the same thing that you do when you represent. You open yourself to perceive what you're feeling in that person's shoes. Only now you're opening yourself to what you perceive when you're standing with this system. So you're actually moving to the next higher level of consciousness. You're aligning yourself with the group. When you sit with your person and their genogram, treat it like you're doing an interview. And listen to the person as if you need to sort out what constellation is helpful here. So you begin by attuning to yourself. How do you feel with this person? What are your internal reactions? Do you feel like you want to save them? Do you feel like you get mad at them? Do you feel like this is a victim? Just looking at your own internal information. How do you feel with this person? But you also look at what words carry energy. And often that's coded messages. You know, they may be talking about something very different, but then there's one word that just stands out strongly. So these are unconscious ways of communicating. You want to really carefully listen to what holds energy when a person talks about their family. Sometimes it's in the first few sentences that you get it, like in an interview. So again, you tune all these things. Everything we said about the interview, you use that when they talk about the genogram. And you try to figure out what in this genogram might be a good thing to work with. Then you ask them, what do you think is the issue in your family? And compare if what you perceive, what they perceive, has anything in common. Figure out what constellation you're going to do with whoever you're working with. We're going to do it a little differently this time. You're going to try setting up a constellation with objects. So what that does is it removes it a little bit. It doesn't make it as intense energetically, I do that in my private practice with individuals at times, and there are many different ways you can do it. Okay, so here's the task of setting up a constellation with objects. When you're here, you can use chairs, you can use pillows, but you can also bring something that you would like to use to work with, because you may do that with friends, with others, to kind of explore it in a more safe way. Playing with objects doesn't intimidate people very much. I brought you my duck collection, so when you have an issue and someone wants to look at it and you say, oh, let's just play and take a look, that takes out some of the... Okay, so let's use one of the scenarios we had in the last Open Constellation workshop. So there was a person who came from Germany, right? So you pick a duck for the self. And she was trying to choose between two countries, you may remember that. So instead of being a representative, you say, this is a representative for me, that's myself. This is my husband, and this is my family of origin. And here I am. So this would be a setup for a constellation, right? So immediately you can see where am I going. Now, you just ask the representative, how does this person feel? No, it's not a representative. You ask the client, how does this person feel? You get information. You ask, how does this person feel? You ask, how does this person feel? And already something starts to evolve in this little play almost. And you make some hypotheses about... So much for the prepping of what you're going to do. So you're going to try to play with a constellation with objects. Bring your own objects if you like, or use pillows, use chairs. I don't have a prescription. Feel what you want to play with. Now, I'm going to teach some of the basic dynamics in family systems. You've seen a lot of them by now. You know about entanglements, you know about loss, unprocessed loss, you know about people, perpetrator and victim dynamics, you know about abortions. You've learned a lot already, so I'm going to teach 5 or 6 of the basic dynamics. I'm going to talk about them, and I may show them in brief setups. So giving you some reminders of diagnostic possibilities, and also teaching the foundation course what some of these dynamics are. And then you can use that reminder to make your own hypotheses of what's going on in your person's genogram, in your person's constellation. What you're also going to try to practice a little bit is starting to use healing sentences. Now I want to talk a little bit about these healing sentences with you, because that's a new edge. Where do they come from? What do you say? Why do you say it? When do you say it? So I want to talk a little bit about that with you so you can start to ponder how that happens. Now, basically these sentences cannot be prescribed. There are dynamics, for example, if there's a loss in a family that wasn't processed, let's say someone's mother died when the child was young and it wasn't processed, you're pretty clear that's going to show itself in the constellation. And the family system hasn't dealt with it, there's some denial. So you already know somehow you want to get to that loss. You want to find a way to unfreeze the energy that was frozen there. You're trying to get that fluid again. And how do you do that? Very often in a constellation, a child will go to attend to this loss. That wasn't really the child's loss, but maybe the mother's loss. So the wrong person will go and try to do the work. But at least there's a fluidity, something is moving. So you allow that to happen, and you try to get the person whose loss it was to acknowledge the loss. So in some way, you want to make the right movement happen, the right flow happen. But you can't push it. You can't make anything happen. All you have are these sentences that hopefully shift something. So once you've found the diagnostics in your situation, for example, unprocessed loss, that's one of the diagnostics. Now you're trying to see, how do I help to make this movement flow? Now, most of these movements can really only flow in a loving way. Your work is to find what helps to connect things again, what helps to make love flow again, what helps to create harmony again. And you look for sentences that promote that. That's pretty much it. So we're going to begin with a little different way of reviewing constellations from the open day. We're going to sit with the genograms, learn about the dynamics in constellations, and then you're going to sit with one of the other people and do your genogram diagnostics, set up a little constellation with objects, and practice some of the movements. See if you can create some healing movements in your little constellation with objects, and see what healing sentences come to you and how you begin to work with that. And then hopefully later in the day we'll do 3 constellations, that's what we hope for, and you are invited to do pieces of that constellation. So you might do the diagnostic part, you might do the interview part, you might do the movement part, seeing what are the healing movements. So we're going to try to break it down so not one person sits with the whole thing, but we can shift in and out, and we'll see how that works.